Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to the Francis Micro Homestead. We bought our Harvest Right freeze dryer 6 years ago, and here's our review on what we like and don't like about having it. One of the main reasons why individuals would buy a Harvest Right freeze dryer is how they market it, which is the um, food preparation, food storage, being able to make meals, freeze dry them, and have them potentially a prepared meal that lasts 20 to 25 years. This is one of the reasons why we bought it, but it wasn't the reason why we wanted to buy that. For us, we first bought this for the food preparation, for the food storage. But since having it for the last 6 years, there's actually three different ways that we use this machine. And first is, of course, the food storage. The second is prepping ingredients and other snacks that are used in other methods and other recipes. And the third is the potential to be able to sell freeze-dried goods at farmers markets. So the first one, the food preparation, um, we started making its individual meals for this for the sole purpose of freeze drying. But what we found is making meals that freeze dry properly and just making extra for us, eating what we can for dinner, and then freeze drying the rest helps build our food storage. Some may think that food storage isn't that important, but for us, we believe that it is important. Um, in the case that um, the economy tanks, or if there's an issue with um, processed foods or anything else at the grocery store, we have potentially 2 or 3 months worth of food freeze dried, ready to go, that we know that the kids will eat, and we'll be able to survive as long as we have clean water and a source of heat. And the one thing that we constantly make is soups, especially in the winter. We always make as more soup than we can eat, just so that we can freeze dry them and keep them on our shelf. We can either, if it's like a tomato basil, we can blend that up and put it in mason jars and have instant basil soup ready to go. Other times we put it in the Mylar bags so that we can enjoy them any time of the year. Another thing that we love to do with our freeze dryer is freeze dried meals for hiking. Um, those meals can be so expensive in the stores, but being able to freeze dry homemade chicken noodle soup, or rotisserie chicken, or spaghetti and meatballs, chicken enchiladas, you name it, that can be reconstituted. It can be freeze dried, and it's a wonderful meal to have when you're out in the middle of nowhere hiking. So that is our food storage portion of why we use the Harvest Right freeze dryer. The second is for food prepping and ingredient making. What I mean by that is we like to make snacks, fruits and vegetables and candies. We make a lot of those. Some of them work, and others not so much. But we try everything that we can, and some are just wonderful and great, and the kids love them. Other things that we like to do is yogurt drops, that we just buy yogurt from the store and then just put a little dollops of yogurt on the trays, freeze them, and then freeze dry them, and then you have your homemade yogurt drops. Other things that we like to do is ice cream. You just cut up you can either do ice cream sandwiches and cut them up and put them in, or you can put little dollops, bite-sized dollops of ice cream and freeze dry them, and they're delicious. But another thing that we like to do, not just snacks, but ingredients. What I do often is I buy a rotisserie chicken from the store and I make a chicken stock from it. Let that cool, and then I put them in the trays and freeze dry them, and then put them in the blender. Then I have my instant chicken stock in mason jars that I can use to season gravies or stews or anything that requires chicken stock. Another thing that we've made in the past that our kids love is homemade mac and cheese. We make the roux, put the cheese base in it, we season it. Originally, you would add it to macaroni, but instead, what we would put in it is put it in the trays, freeze it, and then freeze dry it, and then put it in the blender, and then we have instant mac and cheese mix. That all we have to do is just add water. But what I've done in the past, and it just makes it even more creamy, is add milk to it and reconstitute it, and it's healthier than the box mac and cheese, and the kids love it, and it's easy to make. And then other things that we do is pancake mix. We've made homemade noodles that we've cooked, then laid on the trays and frozen, then freeze dry them. And all you have to do is just add hot water to reconstitute them. Even rotisserie chickens. You shred up the rotisserie chicken and they can freeze dry great. All it needs is a little bit of hot water to reconstitute it, and it's just as good as it came out of the oven. Other things that we do with our produce is we make our homemade onion powder. Just freeze dried the onions and then blend them up, and then you have your freeze dried onions. We also do spinach, cilantro, basil, tomatoes, you name it, anything that you can turn into a powder, and we've done it. And it's nice to be able to add spinach to, let's say, the mac and cheese mix. We add the spinach in there, and the kids don't know any different, and they get a little bit of extra vitamins from that spinach without even knowing they're eating spinach. So the programming on this is fairly simple. You don't need to be a computer whiz or anything like that to be able to navigate the menu. It's fairly simple. There's options here to change the temperature, to change the freeze time, to change the temperature of the drying portion of it, and to change the amount of time it dries. Whenever we do soups or sauces or anything very liquidy, we extend the freeze time, decrease the temperature of the freeze, and increase the dry time, just to assure that everything is frozen properly before it dries. And then once it dries, and it has that much more time to get through the entire portion of the food to make sure that everything has been dried properly. Candies and fruits and vegetables don't take much time. You just want to make sure that all the moisture is out of the food that you freeze dry before turning off the machine. At the end, it does ask if you want to extend the dry time, which is wonderful because you can pull out the trays and easily assess if it's too wet to come out or if it hasn't dried all the way, and you can extend the time as much as it needs. Usually with soups, it takes roughly about as the most that it's gone is 48 hours for soups and for very dense liquidy foods, but it can be between 24 and 48 hours. So things that we don't necessarily like about having a freeze dryer. When we first bought it, we were living in a home that didn't really have space for it, and we didn't think much of it. But when we first ran the freeze dryer, we were pretty amazed about how loud it was. We ended up putting it down in our cold storage, but it still was loud. You can hear it pretty much anywhere in the house. So when we moved out here, we opted to put it out in our shop, which is wonderful because our shop stays above freezing all year round. and we don't hear it in the house when it's running. The other thing too with the freeze dryer is the warming trays are very difficult to clean. Um, if if you get any food on them or any debris or anything like that, it's really hard to get in there and clean them. It does slide out and you can take it in and wash it, but getting your hand in there and getting a decent clean on it is very difficult, especially with the wires that you don't want to completely submerge the warming tray. You want to make sure that it gets cleaned properly, and it's very hard to do. The other thing on this is power consumption. When we first were running the freeze dryer, um, one, it needs to run the heater and the freezer on the unit itself, and two, it needs to also run the pump. Whether you have an oil pump or an oilless pump, there's two power draws that are happening on one outlet. So we had it plugged into a 15 amp circuit that was constantly tripping just because of the amount of power that it was drawing. So having it out in the shop with a 40 amp circuit is ideal. If you can get it to a 40 amp circuit, which is normal in kitchens and in garages, that is ideal, and that's what you need to do. Just so you don't have any power issues or tripping of breakers. Having this go out in the middle of a cycle is it. I mean, if it does go, the power does go out, you can restart the cycle. It just adds more time to the drying process, but it does draw a lot of power that you need to consider when running the system. The other thing that we wish we would have known when we first bought it is the oilless pump is not maintenance free. In fact, the fourth year of using it, it started losing its mTORs. That's the amount of atmosphere that it pulls out and and creates a vacuum in the unit. So it wasn't getting to a point. It wasn't pulling enough mTORs to get it to work and to run. And um, when we were troubleshooting with Harvest Right, they had us take apart the whole unit, re reseal all the hoses and run countless tests. And finally, after about 2 months of troubleshooting it, um, they told us to bring in the pump. And instead of spending so much money on shipping the pump down to their building which is in Salt Lake City, Utah, I ended up taking a day off and driving down to do it myself. So they were holding it for about 6 or 7 days. What they did was they tore it all apart, um, changed some bearings out. I'm not quite sure what they did, but after they're done, they put it back together. And I asked them, "Is this a normal thing?" And they're like, "Yeah, every 3 or 4 years of running your oilless pump, you will need to have maintenance done on it. You'll have to take it into one of the certified buildings that takes them apart and reservices them and have it done." I would have loved to have known this before, just so that I didn't spend 2 3 months troubleshooting it. And after troubleshooting it and finding out that's what we needed to do, I'm like, I'm going to do it myself. But this thing is so complex that I didn't want to mess it up. And and yeah, so I had to take it down, and it cost us about I think it was $350 to have them take it apart and reservice it. But ever since then, it's been working fine. Which leads us to our last one. It's expensive. I mean, this unit itself. I mean, the oilless pump itself is close to $2,000, and then if you add on the freeze dryer unit, you're looking at close to $5,000. Now, I haven't looked at the prices recently, but I know that they've gone down. But when we bought it 6 years ago, it was a hefty price that we had to pay. But being able to have the potential of no food waste is so big in our house. Um, with the cost of how much food is today in the grocery stores and restaurants, wasting food is just it's mind-boggling, and it's just if there was an option to avoid that, then I'm going to take it, and this is one of them. I mean, we're trying to be more self-reliant at our home, and relying on our own food is one of the things that we're look forward to. This upcoming year, we're planning on having a huge garden. We don't want to can everything, and there's some things that we can't can, but most of it we can freeze dry. And having that as an option to include in recipes or reconstitute later and eat later and have them as fresh as the day they were picked is a hope for us. And that's one thing that we look forward to doing in using the freeze dryer. Other things that we want to do is once this food is reconstituted, if we have a surplus, then we want to be able to share it with the community at farmers markets and give them share the word and share the process and share our food. But all in all, would we buy it again? Of course. I mean, this thing it hasn't we haven't made our money back, but it has been such a good tool to have in our home. One thing that I wish we would have done is gotten the mid size. This is the smallest size that they have. The mid size would probably be more efficient for us for the amount of food that we make and freeze dry. But that's pretty much it. We love the freeze dryer. We're going to continue using it. Even though there's some things that we don't like about it, it outweighs what we do love about it. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. But if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and thank you again for watching.